another team, speaking of postseason, that made it there last year, snapping their franchise skid, was the Detroit Tigers.
Undefeated in the spring.
Yeah.
Looking good.
2 games.
Yeah.
2 games.
We'll take it.
Undefeated is undefeated, I guess.
We'll take it.
Is it post? I mean, it's the feeling that it's postseason or bust.
Yeah.
But is it postseason run or bust for this team?
I mean, unfortunately, when you performed like you did last year, that's kind of where we all are, right?
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to lower expectations. If anything, we think this team should be better than last year's team.
I mean, how much better do you anticipate them being? Because they're not going to catch anybody by surprise this year.
No, they're not going to catch anybody by surprise. But I do think that the pitching staff is going to be good enough to put them in the same kind of spot they were last year. It's just all going to come down to hitting.
I just have a bad feeling about the Tigers. I just feel like they caught
Who
lightning in a
invited this
bottle
guy?
last year, and you can't duplicate that. Could they? I could see them actually being a better team and missing the playoffs. But just not putting together a string or a run like they did last year. I just don't see it. But
who's your supervisor?
Look, I'm not really honestly. I'm not really thinking playoffs yet. We got like 30 days left of spring training, right? So like, I want to know who wins the fifth. Who wins the fifth starter job? I want to see how third base solidifies. But to me, everybody wants to talk about how the Tigers caught lightning in a bottle in winning 31 out of 42. But to me, there's also like. They were such a better team than they showed before that.
Correct.
They had a long stretch where they had no Riley Green, no Kerry Carpenter, and that team was just a brutal watch. Yeah. I mean, it was like 6 weeks of just watching like 1800s baseball. Exactly. Yeah. And it was brutal. And you left it feeling so unsatisfied because you were like, this team was better than this before that. So if you stay a little bit healthier, I think the Tigers are going to, a lot of that 31-11 is going to even out with, well, they were probably more of like a 500 team than a 10 below 500 team before that run. And, you know, whether or not 86, 88, 90 games gets you into the playoffs or not, I mean, in the Central, that's going to have you in the mix. And at the start of every baseball season, after what we've been through the last decade, all I care about is that the Tigers are playing meaningful games down the stretch because that was so much fun, and it's so miserable to watch 162 meaningless games when the Tigers are out of it. So playoffs are not just be in the picture with a few games left, and with this roster, I think that that's all you can ask for.
And you have to, they went out and they went get guys. I mean, they didn't hit on a guy like Alex Bregman. We haven't done a show since that news came out. How big of a miss was that? I mean, because we were talking about, it'd be great that he comes here, but looking at the big picture, I mean, how big of a miss is it to not have him?
It's a big miss. I mean, the Tigers need a few key things. They need a right-handed hitter, they need a veteran, and they need a third baseman, and Alex Bregman would have checked all of those boxes. So I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't matter, but I'm also not panicking. Last year, the Tigers were in a much worse situation at third base. I mean, if your biggest hole on the roster, the current favorite to win it is a top 50 MLB prospect who handled himself well while injured last season during a playoff run, then I think you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I think I'm not too worried about third base, to be honest. Would have been nice to get Bregman, absolutely. But I mean, between Verling and Jace Young, they're going to be fine at third base. It does hurt not having that extra right-handed bat, but they're not worse than they were last year, right? We just didn't get better at third base. So I don't think that's a big thing. I am very interested in who the fifth starter is. I thought Maeda and Mize both looked really good this weekend. Both had a lot of strikeout stuff. Both had higher velocity than they did at the last time they pitched. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out.
If Mize is starting to look good, I'm going to call right now. Torkelson's going to come out. He's going to break out this year. He's going to come back, and he's going to do something. I don't know what.
So we go from this team not making the postseason
Somebody
to
take his
Spencer
beverage away.
Torkelson is coming back. Hold on.
That's just my hope. I want to see Torkelson succeed so bad.
I mean, I think we all do.
It kills me.
I just don't know if I have it in me to get my hopes up anymore.
Yeah. I wanted him to be our Bryce Harper, and he's just
there's still time. There's still time.
Mize should have been our Strasburg, and Torkelson should have been our Bryce Harper. That's the way it should have been.
Anybody from the Nationals.
He's been our Strasburg to some degree. Missing a lot of games.
Hopefully nobody's our Jordan Zimmerman. On the fifth starter thing, Maeda, to me, the way that he looked this weekend, much more meaningful than how much better Mize looked. I mean, Mize, to me, his velocity was up, but I wasn't excited about his command. Maeda looked like a guy who had a blip year and said, that's not happening again, and showed up to spring early, showed up farther along in his workout and looked like a guy who could miss bats. And so I really think Maeda has the lead for the number 5 spot right now.
And he looked good coming out of the bullpen last year, whenever he was put in that spot. I mean, that's a prove-it type of opportunity right there.
Yeah, and I was looking at his velocity numbers to see how the spring was versus last year. And there was a middle part of the season where his velocity was significantly down. And then that right around when he went to the bullpen, his velocity went back up. So I do think that, when we saw, there was a correlation there. And if he carries it into the spring, he'll probably
He was throwing 86 in the spring last year.
Yeah.
You're not going to get major league hitters out.
No. And he threw 93 this weekend. So
Well, it's time to hit the reset button on this team as they look forward to another postseason run, Benjamin.
I hope.
I hope not. The story has changed. The story has changed.
I just got a feeling we're going to be disappointed.
We are all out of time
Save it.
on DSP. For Derek, for Ben, for Ian, I'm Hobie. We'll see y'all next time.
Go Pistons.
peace.